We're live. We're live, and I hope the microphones work. I always go for the sound check now before we do anything. So just put down in the chat. Just put down in the chat if the audio is working okay.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Good. I double-checked on my other monitor there. So how are you, Glenn?
I am doing good. Another fantastic week, but we always look forward to what?
That's not what you said 10 minutes ago.
Well, because I was saying we always look forward to the weekend. We want the weekend.
Yes, you want the weekend to be here to do whatever, I guess.
Right, but it goes too fast. I mean, you think about it. You watch 1 or 2 quantum leaps, and the weekend's done.
Yeah.
Can't time travel back. It's gone.
Nope, doesn't work like that. Exactly.
So we have some people in the chat. Let's say hi to. We have Hobby Hands, and we have Chris Williams. Oh, Bill's here. Bill's Retro Game Show. Hey, Bill. Pliskin's Run. Some guy named Stefan or Stephen Cameron. I don't know who that guy is.
I don't know.
Some weird name guy.
Some loser.
But welcome, everyone. We have a good show, I think, for tonight.
Actually, no guest.
No guest tonight. No guest tonight. But, I wasn't quite sure what we were going to talk about. But then Stephen messages me this morning. It was this morning, right?
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday? Okay, well,
and I give you a bit about a day to watch.
And in typical Glenn fashion, about 10 minutes before the show starts, I finished watching the first episode of the new Quantum Leap. So we're going to talk a little bit about,
We're going to talk about the old Quantum Leap a little bit, and the new one.
About the new one.
That sort of thing. And we might throw in video games in there and other sink type stuff.
Endless One-Up, welcome. I see you joining the chat as well. Welcome. Now, I'll admit, and I admitted this to Stephen, I know about Quantum Leap, but I watched a couple of episodes, and once in a while I would put it on and I'd watch it. But I was not a diehard, watched every single episode guy, so I couldn't tell you a lot of things, but I know the premise of the show. And I guess we'll talk about that and about the new show and how if anyone's seen it, what do you feel about it? Because a lot of times a remake... It came out
on Tuesday, I think, or Monday.
Yeah, Monday, and it's on NBC, but sometimes these remakes. Now, this really isn't a remake. This is an actual continuation, kind of. So they're not erasing and retelling the original story. In fact,
they're not doing like Disney and Pinocchio.
No, not at all. They're actually mentioning Sam and his past experiences
at
the
very beginning in
the
paragraphs.
Right. So it's not really a true reboot, but it's a continuation. So how how that plays along, but it's still, I'm going to guess the same. But we'll get into more of that in a little bit. We'll talk about when they start talking about it. But real quick, we have Jennifer's in the show as well. Jennifer, good.
You gotta say
good
Jennifer
evening.
in the house.
Jennifer's in the house.
Maybe that's out of our generation.
I gotta get some new tunes. I keep playing the same one over and over again. But we'll change it up.
It's a song. So Andor, B wants to talk about Andor. We
haven't seen it yet.
A little bit. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it yet either.
We just talked really quick before the show and said, "Did you see it? No."
I'm gonna admit,
maybe before
Steve and I are a little gun shy.
Oh yeah, we've been burnt.
So many times we've been burnt. So, but we're gonna watch it. Like,
I think the proper word is apprehensive.
A little bit
of the whole thing, because The Mandalorian was good.
Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett was it's really a little small train wreck. There was some good parts.
Some good parts
for
of
The Mandalorian.
It was not only forgettable, but it just wasn't a good show. At least not yet.
Yeah, and then you had Obi-Wan, which mixed bag again. We'll call it a mixed bag of emotion and like who kidnaps a little kid, unless you're gonna do.
It wasn't a good script.
Bad behavior that
it wasn't a good script. But I will say, and I think I said it last time, there is a fan edit that combines all 6 episodes to 2 hours.
It be done like that.
No,
these people make millions of dollars.
They do, and they effed it up.
Guy off the internet that fixes everything.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing. The people, Steven, the people who did it officially, were not fans. They were just scriptwriters running a script. They didn't even watch the show. When you have a fan doing it, the fan has
from the heart.
It's from the heart. He knows the legacy, and he improved it. He actually made it palatable to me.
Yep. Yeah, and in the end, it needed a fan. So like Disney needs to take point of this, is that like to fix the deep fake on The Mandalorian, they had to get a guy from the internet. Nobody from ILM could even pull it off, but they had to hire a guy that does all this deep fake stuff to fix it and make it awesome.
Right.
Disney needs to like do ILM and get Kathleen Kennedy out of there and all that stuff just to reshape that company, because guess what? The fans are putting stuff together that people are loving. They got to fix that stuff. So, but anyways, first 3 episodes of Andor are out. Hobby Hands is mentioning the Andor and all that stuff, but I think it takes place either after or just before Rogue One, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
In the timeline of whatever, you know what I mean? So, in the end, I don't know. Like I said, Glenn and I are very apprehensive of watching Andor. Now, don't get us wrong. I think Andor is in the right timeline where it's near Rogue One, which is not prequels. It's more of the original series timeline-ish, like Rogue One was. But maybe next week we'll get a chance, Glenn and I, to check it all out, and we'll come back next week with the, Pleskin's run says Andor is okay. It's like, okay. And then yes, it can't be because he died in Rogue One, so it had to be before, obviously.
Oh yeah, it's a prequel. It's definitely a prequel.
Before Rogue One. Yeah, my bad.
Well, see, that's the one possible saving grace if they do it right, is that you can then watch Andor, go into Rogue One, watch the original trilogy 4, 5, and 6, and then of course that's where Star Wars ends, so we can stop right there.
Yeah, pretty much.
There was nothing ever made after episode.
Then you can watch The Mandalorian after.
You can watch The Mandalorian. And I'm looking forward to the Ahsoka series. I mean, we talked about this before.
Yeah.
Like when Ahsoka first came out.
Third season got put out a little bit too.
It did. But when Ahsoka first came out, I hated the character. And in the first movie, couldn't stand her. But she grew on me in the series. And now she's probably next to like Vader, Luke and Obi-Wan. Favorite character. She's phenomenal. And I think the person playing her right now is doing okay. I still think I would. Dawson? Yeah, I would have liked the original voice actor to have played her.
Yes, but physically, Rosario Dawson looks like her. So
yes.
They had to pick between the voice of the girl that played Ahsoka, which is a tiny blonde girl.
Yeah. Yep, very true.
A tiny white blonde girl.
Yep.
And Rosario is an African American woman, and she does a great job, I think.
I can't fault you there. I agree with you completely. It was, I think, a good casting choice. But again, just the voice and just growing up
Yeah, you're
with
right.
the character, it's one of those things. And again, she did such a good job in the animated Clone Wars, you know,
But she was
and
a
in
little kid
Rebels.
then, right? So, and now she's older and maybe more mature voice. Who knows? So it's one of those things, right? So Pliskin's Run. I'm licking. I think he meant to
What?
say I'm liking the new
What?
Quantum Leap. He went liking. He wrote licking like he's licking the screen, I guess, or something, and then he corrected himself very quickly. So so on to Quantum Leap. So
Yeah, let's
you
go with that. Let's
watched.
go do. Let's go. So we get to go
Okay,
to
so
Bang
I'll
Quantum
tell
Leap.
you what. Yeah, let's put up some artwork. Let's watch the original trailer of this thing together, and then let's maybe. Do you want to reminisce about the old series and then jump into the new one
We'll
and
do
then
that
talk
a little
about
bit. So
that,
right now, I
or
did put
how
a
do you want
poll
to?
up there. Have people watch the new series? So we're not going to go too much. It's only one episode, but so far only 27% and have seen it, and 73 have not seen the new series. But back in the day, when was do you remember what year Quantum Leap first came out, Stephen? You're the bigger expert on it than I am.
I can find out in 2 seconds. It was late 80s, early 90s, I believe.
I could have said that. I could say between 2000 and 2020 too. I mean,
Yeah, here, hold on. So the very first episode aired on,
Pliskin
let's
says
see, March
89.
26, 1989.
Yeah, Pliskin's Run's got it. He said 89. Very good.
89.
Endless One
Yep,
Up was
very good.
close at 91.
So 89, March 26th, and it ended 5 seasons later, clearly. Last episode, according to this, aired on May 5th, 1993.
Okay, so we're going to do right now, we're going to take a quick look at the
5 seasons.
original trailer for the Scott.
And
what
you're
about-
going to have this theme song stuck in your head for the week. Go.
It is okay, but all right,
I like
let's see. Let's see. Here's the original trailer for Quantum Leap 1989.
Death is a doorway. We shed one skin and put on another and leap.
Of course it's me. You think I'm gonna let you go through this alone? Now look at me.
You're the big city man. You figure it out.
Al, I used to be a doctor. I can't help him die.
I bled him till the snow turned red. He looked like you.
What is wrong with me? I spend half the time saying I'm sorry and the rest of the time cleaning up my mistakes.
Why are you here?
I can't let you marry a man you're not in love with.
You can't lose sight of your own happiness. What if there's nothing beyond the door?
Then I would fight to hang on to this skin as hard as I could.
Hope that.
Don't look at me. I'm out of here.
So, Steven, tell me a little bit about the original series. We just saw the trailer. What did you think of the original series?
I loved it. I thought it was a very unique concept back in the day where during the season you kind of wonder, is it, God sort of making him leap, that sort of thing, the quantum accelerator, because there is a point where it's scientific and then they start realizing that they're helping people and that there's maybe a greater controlling power, blah blah. But they don't say God. They don't say this is a religious show or anything like that. They just keep it scientific, but it's a good message across the whole thing, right? So he'd leap at the end of the episode, he'd leap into somebody else and oh boy, and then it would cut. Then the next week, that sort of thing. And yeah, it was good. It was a great concept. And you and I were talking before the show. According to the original 5 seasons, he never made it home, but I slightly remember him going home and going back accidentally or on purpose back into we'll call it the quantum accelerator. But don't quote me on that, but I think that's what happens. But in the end, at the last episode of the 5th season, he's still jumping around up there.
So put down in the chat if Steven's right there. Did he ever actually make it home and then left
Jump back
again?
in.
So like in Sliders, remember the TV show Sliders?
Oh,
They
yeah,
actually
I
got
love that
home
show,
and
too.
they didn't realize it, and they slid out, and then they were in the right world.
Universe, yeah, exactly.
So
And-
I think it was left very big word for me, ambiguous. You never.
Ambiguous?
Thank you. I'm Italian. I can't say certain words.
I'm
So,
French, and no excuse.
They never really hinted, I think, either way. They kind of hinted he didn't make it home, but he might have. They never really said, I think, either way. Because I do remember watching the last episode where he did that last jump. But I could be wrong with that, too. So,
Oh, see there, Bill and Endless One-Up. He went home a few times, I think. And again, all of our memories are crap. And Bill's Retro Gaming shows, yeah, he came home and Al leaped and then back again to save Al. So I think that's what happened.
I
That's the
remember that
I
episode.
think that's the episode that I'm remembering.
I do remember that
he
episode.
did
That something
make it
happened.
home and
Al
went
did it,
back.
and then he went to save him, and then he got him back, and he got trapped again. So I do remember that.
And Pliskin says, you got to say Sliders right. So is it Sliders? Is it something like that? I think that's the way they say
Actually, the best way is really White Castles, because they're the original Sliders, and they're delicious.
Yeah, they're little tiny burgers. Yep.
They are.
So basically, that whole premise. There was episodes that I think he was trying to stop Lee Harvey Oswald from JFK. Marilyn Monroe was one of the episodes, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like the whole. They put like famous people in a lot of them, and they put a lot of. I mean, back in the 80s and early 90s, there was a lot of racial awareness, we'll call it. So they put in him going into an African American individual,
Right.
and Asian individual, and that sort of thing. And I thought that was kind of cool to sort of paradigm shift that whole thing and going, hey, look how it was, back in the 30s, 50s, or it's quantum leaping within his own lifetime. So you would assume that Sam Beckett would have been born in, let's say, the 40s or 50s, and then
Right.
jump in between all those years, essentially. So, but it's cool.
All right,
the
let's
very
take
last
a
episode never returned home. So last
Okay.
credit, there we go. So
let's
that's the
take a
word.
look at the new show. Now, tell us what you know before you saw it. Like, what did you know about the new Quantum Leap? What did you think was gonna be? Was it
I had
going to
no
be?
idea, because I was like, well, how the hell are they gonna? We live in an era. You know this as well as I do, and everybody else in this chat is companies will reboot something. They don't need to reboot it. They don't need to touch it with a 10-foot pole, but they go and put their greasy little hands and screw it all up. This, I thought for sure that they would try to reboot it and pretend Sam Beckett and Scott Bakula never existed, and they'd put their little dirty hands all over the place.
Right.
And then you're like, well, why'd you touch a good thing? No, these guys, well, since he never made it home, they still work on that premise that he still didn't make it home, which was a surprise to me. I was like, okay, good. They're not gonna put their dirty little grubby hands.
Well, see,
all
that's a
over
good
this and
thing
turn it
right
on its
there.
head. Yeah.
So far, they're respecting the property. They're
original lore.
respecting the original characters versus, totally trashing it. So that's a good
Trying
sign
to be
right
better
there.
than that.
Right.
And instead of continuing that same, we'll call it a universe, right?
Right.
And this also acknowledges that Dean Stockwell, Al, died 2 years ago, and he did in real life 2 years ago. And they're honoring that, and they're putting that into the story, which I think is very clever.
Right.
So without spoilers, and you guys go ahead and watch it, but
Because no one knows if Sam is dead, he's still missing.
you
Right.
know what? It would make sense if they would bring him, but we'll talk about that after. But
Right.
let's watch the new trailer.
Let's pull it up.
I didn't know what to expect, so let's watch it and we'll talk about it.
Okay, let's take a look at the new trailer. This is the new Quantum Leap, which is on NBC, and it premiered this past Tuesday. Is that correct?
Monday or Tuesday on NBC. I
Okay.
can't remember which day it was.
Okay, let's take a look.
This is bigger than anything you can imagine.
trying to find you for hours.
Do I know you?
You don't remember me.
I don't remember anything.
What the hell are you doing? Get in there! I'm a hologram from the future. We gotta go now! I'll explain everything later. Just get in the van.
What do I do?
What do? You're the getaway man. Get us away, man.
You can do this, all right? Put it in first and punch it. You have 2 cop cars on his hill. You need to lose them.
I'd like that slower explanation now.
Your name is Dr. Ben Song. You're from the year 2022. You were the lead physicist on a top secret project called Quantum Leap. You're a time traveler. I'm Addison Augustine. We work together.
Yeah, they do.
Obviously, I time travel into other people, so beam me up.
It's not that simple. You leap into people to help them or someone around them, changing history for the better. No matter what happens, Ben, look out! I am going to be with you every step of the way until we get you home.
Ben knew that the technology wasn't ready.
Can you hear me?
Why did he leap? Find out what he's there to do and bring him home.
If you fail, there is a 100% chance that this ship will crash.
Just out of curiosity, if the person I leap into dies?
You die too.
Right. Good to know.
Wait a second. There must be a misunderstanding, okay?
So there we go. There's the new one. Oh, we lost your audio. Why did we lose your audio?
I muted. Sorry.
Oh.
There. I had
I was like,
muted
ah!
it because I was watching it on this monitor here. So, but yeah, I mean, what do you think? So I'll tell you what. I've been doing a lot of yapping. So you watched it. We talked about a little bit about the show, but let's talk about the stuff that you liked without spoiling it for our guests.
Sure.
Here.
Well, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of the original Quantum Leap. I did watch episodes now and again, and I enjoyed them for the most part when I watched them. And I knew the characters for sure. I knew the premise. You know, I know about that the way the time travel worked, and he had to complete the tasks. So when this one first came on, my first worry was, in typical fashion, what we've seen in a lot of these shows is they either completely ignore the original, which is,
they scrap it and reboot it.
Probably
basically.
better than trashing the original characters and show. I was pleasantly surprised they didn't do either. They came right out in the very, very beginning credits and just simply said, hey, this is a continuation, and Sam never came home, and they still want to bring him home, and the show takes off, and he's building on Sam's work. It's not like he did it all by himself, or this girl did it all by herself. They're building off of
it makes more
his
sense.
work. Right. So he's doing all that. Now, what gets this one, in the first series, Sam wanted to prove his theory, which is why he went in the machine and did what he did. This one was a little bit more ambiguous. So he got a call from somebody, said something was found, and come right away. Next thing you know is he's jumping in the machine. And, of course, he loses his memory, so he doesn't really remember why he did this. There was clues that were left, which we don't go into too much because people didn't see it yet. But there are clues that were left. That's probably going to be what the series is going to be about. What made him do this test of the machine they all knew wasn't ready, and there was some mysterious new code uploaded to the machine. So something that says almost like a conspiracy behind the scenes as to what's going on here. The government's running it.
Deeper.
Right. The government's running it. And hey, one of the Ghostbusters characters is in here
Ernie
as well.
Hudson.
Right. Ernie Hudson's in here. So he's doing a really nice job, I think, as well in his
He's
role.
kind of like the boss guy.
He is.
It's kind of like their handler. I think that's the best way to between them and the government or something.
And
like
I
that.
do admit there was, and Stephen, you saw this as well. They had one character in there that was, how would you describe it, Stephen?
Politically necessary, I guess.
Perhaps. So it was obviously it was a guy.
It doesn't hinder the story.
No, it doesn't. But it's almost like those things. He didn't really need to be in there, and he started off very flamboyant for his character. And we talked about it before the show. Is sometimes those characters may either never work for me or may take multiple episodes. I will say halfway through, I'm like, you know what? He's doing a good job, and the character, I kind of see where the character is the way he is.
You know what I'm liking?
It didn't bother me.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was like, and I agree with along the lines of what you're saying. When they make a character like that, a lot of them, they'll feminize it. This character, although the sexual orientation is different.
Ambiguous to say.
They kept it scientific and what it needed to be, meaning they're keeping on the track of the science, that character's science knowledge. You know what I mean? Not emphasizing the sexuality part.
Right.
He's there to save this character. Ben Song is the name of the new guy, and they're keeping it scientific. They're not making it about, hey, how's Bob? Or whatever. You know what I mean? They don't sort of dive into that whole. He just is, and I think that's the right way to handle that, in my opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I thought in the beginning there was a shock. I'm like, oh my god, really? But that character worked out well. They have a woman security coder person there. I thought she did a fine job. They had a little.
Yeah.
You could tell that these people worked with each other for a while. It wasn't like it's a first show and the characters know how to talk to one another. They actually talked and worked off each other very well. So I think it was good casting.
That worked well too. Yeah. Goofyfoot asked a really good question there. So is Scott Bakula gonna come back to the show? Seems like a huge miss. I have a theory you and I talked about. We'll talk about the show, and then I'll talk about my theory and Glenn too, I imagine.
Yeah, we'll end the show on your theory at that point.
Prediction / theory that I think makes sense, but we'll talk about the show.
I think that
continue with the show.
I think at some point he'll be in there. I think the ultimate way for the show to end would for him to get him back. It would be a kind of thing, but it's also one of those things. It's like midichlorians. Did you really need to know about Jedi and midichlorians? Maybe it's best that maybe they do see him. Maybe it's another person seeing like Scott, Sam running around somewhere. Right. They do that. And, they maybe at the very end of the episode, they figure out, wait, we were both quantum leapers, but they're gone. And maybe they don't see each other again at all.
A few episodes or something.
Right. Something like that. Would it be funny? Would it not be funny if he jumps into Sam?
Well, that's one of my theories. I told you that, right? So that's we'll talk about that a little later for sure. But the show itself to me was not a letdown, which was pretty good.
It was a good first one.
It felt right. It felt unlike like Glenn was saying, they didn't massacre and try to spray their crap all over a classic, so to speak. Because I think Quantum Leap is definitely a classic. Theme song is well known across. It's like the theme song of Knight Rider and Airwolf. When you hear the Quantum Leap song, you know it's Quantum Leap. You know what I mean? And in today's age, we don't get theme songs anymore. So it's just the logo of Quantum Leap and thanks for coming, and that's it, right? But this, from what I could tell, this show seems to have a double-edged. See, back in the original Quantum Leap, you didn't know what was happening back at the base or whatever.
Right.
And yes, MacGyver, Jason, for sure. Yeah, the theme song of MacGyver. And basically, you never knew what was happening at the central thing.
Right.
It was always Al going, hey, Ziggy's calculating this. They're working on that. But this seems to be more, the government's trying to shut them down. There's some people behind the leaping. There's a story there versus just a person leaping and they're repeating that show all over again. You know what I mean?
There could be some subplots you're saying versus just being about Sam.
So there's a subplot of saving someone, and then there's another subplot what's happening back at the quantum accelerator thing.
Who the mysterious person is who made him decide to jump. So there's another one. There's another angle to go after.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're basically what I'm trying to say is they have two storylines. Him saving people, like the traditional sense, and in the background, people trying to stop this project or whatever. So you've got the time travel story, and then you've got the here and now, more nefarious type stuff, right? Which I thought was pretty cool. So so basically, in a nutshell, I give it a thumbs up so far. It's only one episode in.
Yep, and I will agree with you. It's definitely a thumbs up. I'm going to give the first, again, sometimes sometimes the first episodes are not, they're okay, right? They're okay.
Well, they take a while to spin up, right?
They do. But I think this one I'm going to give almost like a 7 because I enjoyed it right off the bat. They didn't subvert expectations and threw some really weird stuff in the show.
Yep.
they kept the legacy of the original show in there, and it worked in very well into the show.
Yep.
So I for a lot of, like, even the first, like, Next Generation episode, kind of 4 point, I wasn't a fan. I was like, it was kind of weak. And that's normally, you need time to build up these
The
shows.
first season of Next Generation was
Kind of weak. It was kind of weak.
Kind of weak. After that, it sort of matured.
Yep.
you
And
know,
and I liked a lot of the music they used in here. Of course, it was in the 80s.
that's right.
And they had some really good
actually went
80s
and
music in there,
licensed
so I was
some
digging it.
music. They actually licensed some of that music. for
Yeah.
sure.
So
And
I
thought
enjoyed
was
that.
Really well done too, for sure. Yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoyed that. And
absolutely.
there were some very strong women in there, and there were strong women that weren't, like, over the top. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There were strong women, but, they weren't going to take down a 300-pound, bodybuilder. But there were strong women, and the characters worked. So I think they did a good job with the character development, the story.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it was a solid episode. So if you haven't seen the new Quantum Leap,
Go
you
check
might
it out.
want to check it out if you're a fan of the original. And if you're not a fan, I don't think you need to see, because I didn't see them all. I don't think you
Well,
need to see the original to enjoy this
No.
episode either.
You'll appreciate it more probably. I think the only thing that I would leave our community or our audience here with is you're not gonna miss anything, but you're gonna have you're gonna feel sorry more for Sam Beckett not making it home. You're gonna be more attached to that character and he never made it home. And I hope NBC capitalizes on that to implement him into the new series. Not hijack
Right.
and take over the whole show, but just show up that he's out there still or something.
Right. And he
even
could
if
be. I mean, something
could
could have
be.
happened. He may have had a bad jump. The person could have died. He was in, so he may not be alive. Maybe
That's
they'll
right.
find that out. Maybe they'll determine, oh my God, he
died
jumped
or-
this person. We found his signature here, and he didn't make it. So that's another possibility too.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? So I hope they explore that is what I'm trying to say. I agree with you. I'm giving it a 7 also. The only pet peeve I've had, I would have given it an 8.
Okay.
The only thing I did not like was the visual effects. I thought they were bad.
Which effects? There wasn't a lot of effects in it. What effects?
When the car's driving sideways, when they're talking about the guy's wife. And
Oh man,
everything.
let me tell you something.
And I'm looking at that
Watch the current season 5 of Cobra Kai. That looks like someone drew the background with a crayon in the car. So compared to that, it was
well,
a 10
there's
for me.
that, and there's a few other scenes where, like, it's bad, and I'm kind of like, okay, whatever. Maybe they'll give it a bigger budget next year and have better special effects.
Well, that's also
the only
possible
pet peeve.
too.
Story's good.
Yep.
I'm not. This is like a little. We'll call it. I'm a graphic
But,
designer by
the-
trade, so I look at this stuff and I go. It
But
could've
if you
been
look at the
better.
original Quantum Leap, they weren't exactly,
well, it was the
dazzling
90s,
special
right?
effects
So-
in there either.
Oh God, no. It's I don't even know how they pulled that off. So it's hey, we're at the halfway mark. Wow,
We are.
all this yapping. Cool.
We are.
So what are the theories? I'll give you my theory.
Let's shoot your theory.
I've got a theory what's going to happen, and basically, so not to spoil anything, but basically Ben Song, which is the main character, he goes into the quantum accelerator, and they think it's all out of character for him to jump in there before the project's finished, like you mentioned earlier, Glenn. And I think that Sam Beckett jumped into that Ben Song character and made
Okay.
him do all that stuff because he uploaded some new code.
Yeah, they assumed it was him who did it, but maybe it wasn't him who uploaded
Maybe
the code.
Sam Beckett, he's the original creator of this thing, right?
Right.
So maybe he updated the code to try to get himself back home, and then he jumped into the accelerator, probably to, I don't know, maybe that's what needed to happen, is him jumping in there and then get them both home or whatever, right?
That's
So
not
my
a bad theory.
The theory is Sam Beckett's trying to get himself home, and after how long has this show been? 25, 30 years?
It's almost like 40 years, isn't it? Well, 89. So,
So
30,
let's say
33 years.
Yeah, so basically, he's tried for 30 some odd years to get himself back home, and when the whole project was getting revitalized, and maybe he was able to control who he was jumping into. I don't know, because it was random during the original series.
Right.
Oh, I jumped into a woman. I jumped into an Asian person, or whatever. It was random, but maybe he was able towards the end control and whatever. But hey, who knows? So the new show, I think they're gonna probably bring in Scott Bakula eventually, I think NBC out there is just putting out garbage just to try to throw people off the trail and get people all upset. I don't think they've done that, because you could tell right off the first sentence that they explain why and how they're there. Meaning, Sam Beckett never made it home. The
Right.
project got this and this and this, and they explain themselves right off the bat. They didn't need to do that, but they
Right.
take it on themselves to make it a point to explain themselves, which I thought, and whatnot. So, Zero Redux is asking where the original series is. I think it's NBC or Peacock.
Yes,
or
it's on
in the
NBC
US.
Peacock. And
In
actually,
Canada, I have no idea.
the Rexer show, Rexer is in here as well. He says he's a huge Quantum Leap fan, but he hasn't seen the new episode yet. And Rex,
Check
we're
it
just
out,
talking
Rexer.
about it. Yeah, I think it's a worthy watch, Rex. We both gave it a 7, which I think is really good for a pilot episode.
Well, especially when they're toying with that old stuff. Like, I think the premise of this show that you and I even created, Kicking It Old School, is that frustration of taking old IPs
And drag them through the mud.
and piss all over it, is what
Yep.
I was going to say, but same idea. Instead of leaving it alone and coming up with their own crap, their own thing. And I think that's what they're doing here with Quantum Leap. They're not going, we're going to make our millions off the backs of Scott Bakula and this story that everybody loved. We're just going to, kind of like what they did with Knight Rider. Remember what they did with Knight Rider, or even MacGyver lately?
When the remakes?
Yeah, with Magnum PI, the new remake. It's like, they just screwed them up. You know what I mean?
Right. They take a good show and they figure that name is gonna get the fans back. But if you're gonna, well, you can. It can be done. This is an example of them doing it, and I think they did a good job. But before this has been such a bad way of just, as you said, pissing over it. I was gonna say drag through the mud. The original legacy property is where the problem comes in, because you want us, the fan, to remember the original show, to be like, oh my God, they're bringing the show back. But then you ruin it.
You turn it on its head.
Right.
And they basically, and it's exactly like they did with Ghostbusters. And I think
the new one, I still haven't seen it myself. Ghostbusters
awesome,
Afterlife.
Afterlife.
You haven't seen it yet.
It's the one with the girls, I think he's talking about.
Yeah. Hold on. We have a Hobby Hands donated $2 through a super chat. So Hobby Hands, again, thank you. And
Sam jumped into Jonathan Archer.
That would be cool. I was actually thinking about that. Maybe that would happen at some point. But I think he can only jump in his lifetime. Is that correct? He can only jump
apparently
when he's
within
alive.
his own lifetime. But if he's still alive, everything moves forward, right? So
that's true. But the Enterprise was in the 22nd century.
Oh yeah.
So
that doesn't.
That's a little too far.
That doesn't mix.
But that's also an interesting premise of the show. He can't go back to the Stone Age. He can't go back. It's only from when he was born. See, that's kind of interesting, though, because have they ever done anything in the original show where he was in the future? Like, if he lived to like 70 or 80, he'd be.
Apparently, the show was set in 2000 something, meaning like when he leaped back.
Yes, but I'm saying is he was what, like 35 when the show was on?
I guess,
so if he lived to like 70 or 80, he'd have been in the 2030, 2040, 2050, 2060.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did they ever go that far
in
the show?
I don't know.
I
don't know. I'd have to watch it again. But Goofyfoot saying Knight Rider will never happen. Well, they did a Knight Rider.
There was a few Knight Riders. There was like 4 series and 3 movies.
Well, the one I'm thinking of is the one they had.
The red car?
No, it was a black.
Oh, the Ford Mustang that could change its shape.
Or something.
The polymetal that can change its shape.
I thought that was so bad.
And actually, well, it did better than the red one. It was a Dodge. I think it was a Dodge Challenger that they did, and it was front wheel drive. You can't have the Knight Rider as a front wheel drive car. You can't.
Wasn't it Knight Rider 2000 or
2000, yeah. That was that one.
Bad. It was so bad.
It was bad.
And it was just.
And you know why? Real quick, one of the things that they did in that show was they pissed on the original. They destroyed Kit. They took his computer. They found him in a trash can. And they rebuilt him from junk parts. So that's not how you build a new series off of that. You don't.
I think, especially if a series or a movie series, whatever, is successful. Like, I mean, if it's trash, if they decided to make Toxic Avenger again.
Which they are, in fact.
Okay, well, if they did, or if they are, sure. I was just using that as an example that's familiar to you and a few people that you were in the second or third one.
I was in part 2 and part 3. Yep.
Okay, so if they remade that, it had a cult following, that's fine, but it wasn't successful. It's like taking E.T. and redoing it. It's like, don't touch it.
Well, the
I
Toxic
mean, come
Avenger became
on.
more successful as a cartoon. Believe it or not, they made that into
Really?
they took an R-rated murders bloodfest movie
And he's
into
a friendly
a
guy,
G-rated,
nice sewers.
happy-go-lucky, environmental guy. Now, I always say Snake Plissken, but Plissken's Run mentioned V. V
yeah.
was a good
They remade
series.
that too.
The miniseries both were great. The TV series kind of drove it into the ground.
Yep.
And I didn't watch. I tried to watch the new one, but every time it was on, I missed it. Like I watched the wrong night, so I always
Peter
missed it.
Dinklage is a new Toxic Avenger, really?
Yeah. Yep.
A 3-foot menace.
That's it.
Basically.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know who the new one is, but
Well, no, the Zero Redux said that, but I don't know if he's.
he might be
kidding.
joking.
Yeah, if he's joking,
but,
it's a pretty funny joke.
Pliskin said that the new V was. Oh, sorry, it was Apples. I'm not wearing my glasses.
Get some glasses.
Yeah,
'cause I-
Apples
that's what I got
said the
these
remake
days.
did suck. That's a new V. I didn't really see it. I mean, that's
I
what I'm.
saw it. It was okay, but it was just strange. It was just strange in general. And I think if this takes off, this quantum leap, I think that's going to be the blueprint of making not a remake, but continuing a good story in a sense. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like you don't have to trash everything. Just keep going.
Right, and that's
You know,
good.
and don't try to be this
Subverting
overbearing-
expectations and
not
doing
just
that.
but just as I'm going to destroy this, make it my way. No. You got to stick to the rule book. If you're touching an existing, go make your own if you want to destroy stuff. And that's what I think is wrong with the remake industry. Is essentially, they take something, they rip it apart. They think they're doing but they're basically redoing something off somebody else's back. In
Right.
a sense where
Right.
they created it, and then they're literally like, well, I'm not creative enough to come up with my own story, so I'll take that one, destroy it, rewrite it. Well,
Right.
you didn't come up with anything.
Right,
really.
and that's where they ruin it. And most of the remakes, that's what they do. And people like us
That's
say, "Oh,
where it's wrong.
I love this series." Let me sit down and watch it, and it's got nothing pretty much to do with the original series, or they trash the legacy characters. They're a drunk bum who can't do anything right. I was thinking when we're doing this, would make a good series that they only made a movie of. They Live. I think that would make a good TV series.
Oh, with Roddy Rodpiper?
That's right. Of course, he passed away as well.
I
but
watched it about a year ago.
yeah,
actually.
I think that would be good. You're trying to prove, the aliens are
With the
here.
glasses. You need the
Right,
special
exactly.
glasses to
Exactly.
see the-
That would
the
be a good,
birds.
maybe on a short series on Netflix, maybe 1 or 2 seasons,
Yeah.
10 episodes each might
I
be
think
something
that
good.
belongs on Netflix for sure, but I mean, I'm thumbsing up the quantum leap stuff and whatnot. I think that's going to be.
Uh-oh.
We'll maybe talk next week. And
Pliskin, Snake, I keep saying Snake Pliskin, but Pliskin's Run's backing up, saying Peter is the new
Dinklage
Toxic
is-
Avenger. Zero was right. I stand corrected, Zero. I didn't mean to challenge your your knowledge.
We're
You're
kinda
right.
guessing sometimes here at the show. Like we're not the know all see all.
No, and I'm definitely not all on the latest of the Toxic Avenger stuff. Yeah, I'm just not.
by the way, guys, this is for future. Glenn and I will be wrong many times.
mostly
So,
him, but yeah.
yeah. We'll be wrong on accuracies. We do our best to do a bit of research and whatnot. And so what about Endor? So a few people chatted about that. You and I are big Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
We're reluctant, apprehensive.
We've been burned so many
wanna-
times. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
problem.
So I'm gonna give this a shot because it's closer to that Rogue One storyline.
Right, which is the Imperial time frame, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
So I agree. I will watch it. 3 episodes dropped at once, correct?
I think so. Yeah, on Disney Plus.
Do we know how many episodes it's supposed to be?
No idea. I don't know. I didn't care enough, to be honest, because the guy that's in there, he was in Rogue One, but I'm kind of like, okay, sure. I know what it's all about, but I just kind of, it's like the getting burnt, once bitten, twice shy, as they say, So for me, I'm gonna watch it, but yeah, it's 3 episodes from what I saw on Disney Plus.
Well, Zero Redux said something funny here. They Live is 2022 America, and he could be right. Maybe that's why I got these headaches. I've been having a lot of headaches.
You need the
this
glasses
week.
to see if somebody's, or maybe I am, and I don't even know. One of those monster things or aliens or what? What was it in Aliens, right?
It
and
was.
a bunch of aliens, and
Yep.
I think Duke Nukem took a line from there too. It's time to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And
Yeah, it says I'm all out of bubble gum. Yeah. And actually, I'm trying to see without my glasses. Apcus, if I'm reading that right. Am I reading that right?
Apcus, yeah.
Apcus, okay. It says 12 episodes. I'm sorry, Apcus, if I'm not wearing... I need glasses, and I know my friend Mary keeps telling me I got to go get this checked. And,
no, you don't. Just go to the... I'll tell you what. Go to the... I was going to say the hardware store, not the hardware.
That would be a good set of glasses.
Get the safety glasses, but go to the drugstore and just get some reading glasses and put them on and read right in front of you.
They have
until
different,
you get the right power.
but they have different powers, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it goes 1, 125, 1.5, 175, 2.
You know what this means?
Et cetera, et cetera.
You know what
These
this
are
means?
1.25s.
You know what this means?
Perfect. You're getting old. We're getting old.
Getting old. What happened?
Yeah. Well, that's why there's old in our title of this show.
Well, it's kicking it old school. You know,
that's right.
But not that we're old men. Maybe we got to change to the old men's show.
Maybe kicking it new school. I don't know. We'll come up with a different name.
I remember Ice Pirates. Snake Plissken said Ice Pirates. I don't know if that'd make a TV series, but if you haven't seen it, it's
I've never seen
it's
that.
like the airplane in space, type of comedy. You know that very.
Oh, that Hot Shots Part 2.
Yes, which was kind of funny.
Humor.
Yeah,
where it's
guy humor. Guy humor.
Yeah, it's yeah, the dad humor I call it. But yeah. So basically, that's basically the our week a little bit. We were talking about some other stuff, but basically that's. I made sure I said, hey Glenn, check out Quantum Leap. We'll talk about that on Friday.
And I got to admit, I was like, oh man, we're gonna talk about this show.
What's he making me watch?
I don't want to
now?
watch
Damn
this
it.
show. I don't. But and literally, I finished watching it a few minutes before we went live, and it was good. It ended on a good, good cliffhanger for the next episode.
Yeah.
Don't say what it is because people might want to watch it and see what that's going to be.
It's something that Glenn likes a lot.
I do.
I like
do.
too, but
Fembots.
Glenn
All
want
about the
more.
fembots taking
Yeah,
over.
the fembots. So yeah. Oh yeah, the Time Bandits. Remember that movie?
I do remember that. I do remember that show. I know that.
Zero Redux mentioned that, and I remember that when I was a kid. I haven't watched it since.
But it's one of those movies that was just weird. I mean, almost like you had to be drunk or stoned watching it.
It was a weird British movie. You know what I mean? And as a kid living in North America, U.S. or Canada,
you were like
our perception was like, what?
Yeah,
like
it was.
When
It was.
I watched Monty Python for the first time, I didn't quite understand it because it's a British humor, and then I kind of got into it, and then Benny Hill.
Oh man,
Yeah.
loved Benny Hill.
Oh, me too. I loved it, and I thought it was the best British comedy, and I like that better than Monty Python.
Well, I felt really bad for him because
As my
his
son
Benny
would say,
Hill's
"There, I said it,
humor.
fight me."
Benny Hill's humor was quite over the top, sexed up, and so eventually the BBC decided this is too much, and they basically his career was like done. He died like alone in an apartment, kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
That's kind
He
of
died,
sad.
And he was hilarious.
He was very funny.
The songs he would sing too. Remember those songs he'd sing about, like, I don't know how they came up with half of this stuff, but and it's great. I think that humor was the catalyst for Mr. Bean, that other British comedy stuff. Oh, speaking of Mr. Bean, I haven't watched it yet, but apparently Man vs. Bee on Netflix is hilarious.
Okay.
A buddy of mine and his wife, they were saying they almost peed their pants. It was so funny. So I haven't watched it yet, but it's the reason I'm saying is Rowan Atkinson, which is Mr. Bean, is in there.
Okay.
And so I'll see what happens, but back then Benny Hill, man, I mean, it was awesome.
It was very, very funny show, but again, even like not Married with Children, although that's one, but All in the Family, those type of shows, Chico and the Man, those are shows that will never
see the light of day.
See the light of day again. Yeah, maybe in reruns on a weird channel.
It's
but
unfortunate because they like Sanford and Son. There was a lot of white people there, and there was a show about African American. You know what I mean? It was.
Well, it was a show about a bigot. Let's not beat on the. It was about a bigot.
Yeah.
That's why it was funny because people are realizing how does this guy function because he's an absolute bigot.
But it was still pretty cool, as in it was a different time, obviously.
It was, but it's kind of.
you know
Isn't it
what? I
weird
don't
though?
res-
Isn't
I
it
don't
weird
resent-
that in the 70s, after the 60s, the 70s, you had all these shows that were hysterical back then. Almost can't show them today. We're supposed to be more open. We can't even laugh about this stuff anymore. I mean, there's a
the
movie.
Jeffersons. Remember the
The
Jeffersons?
Jeffersons did same thing,
He'd
there's a
make fun of
movie.
his white neighbor.
He did all the time.
The
Honky, call him
whole
Honky all the time. But I'm thinking of
Cracker,
Mel
whatever,
Brooks.
it's like,
Think of all the
okay.
Mel Brooks movies.
Oh God.
You almost
what was
can't
that?
even talk about them anymore.
Did you see the meme of Blazing Saddles was edited for TV? It was
Nothing. It was a
2
title
minutes
screen.
long.
Yeah,
two
it was a
minutes
title
long
screen.
or something.
Because my brother and I,
saw
we
that.
sat down a few years ago, probably like 4 years ago. He said, "Well, let's watch." My brother loves Young Frankenstein. But we watched that a million times. I said, "Let's watch Blazing Saddles." So I had Cole come
wrong.
down, and we put it down. I had to turn it off. I was like, "Cole, you can't." Why? Cole's just like, "Dad." I'm like, "You know what? You're right." I had to turn it off. But in the 70s when that came out, it was hysterical. I mean, I can't watch the fire pit scene with all farting for like 50 minutes. That was like the best scene ever as a kid.
Yeah. At that age, let's face it, when Benny Hill hit, well, puberty was hitting for me. So it was like, hey, and there was girls on there dancing, and it made me laugh, and the whole night. It had the package for a teenager when you think about it, right? Benny Hill. But yeah, you're right. There's no way they'd show these shows, and
Or worse,
maybe,
they do show them, and they edit it, and they take out.
oh, just like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be doing that.
yeah, I mean,
Oh.
you can still find them on YouTube though, but that's true. You look at the old Looney Tunes stuff. That again, we grew up on every
The
day,
coyote
every
being
day,
exploded.
every day, and now they're all considered like banned. They're not good. You
Yeah.
can't show them. I don't remember picking up, a stick of dynamite and putting it down my pants and chasing the Roadrunner and
Yeah,
blowing up in my.
thinking you'll live through it.
Yeah, I mean, there comes
They
a point.
thought that kids would actually do that, and it's like, well, first of all, if your kid's believing that stuff, you're doing a bad job.
Well, you have to
raising them.
clean the gene pool somehow, and we're interfering with Mother Nature at that point.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I have to agree a little bit on that one. No, it's sad if people lose their children, and my heart goes out to them. But
Of course.
it's like, geez, man, it's like you're having to censor Bugs Bunny of all things. I mean, I think the only one that was rude was Yosemite Sam, and he wasn't even that rude. He was
Right.
more laughable.
But he was old. He was always doing what?
Shooting guns.
Right.
and-
So can't show him. Then you have
Yeah.
Elmer Fudd has a shotgun. Can't show him.
yeah, and that's all the good episodes right there.
Yeah.
They made what was it, Black Jacques Shellac? Remember that with the dam? He basically, Bugs Bunny was taking a shower on a waterfall,
Okay.
and the waterfall stops, and it's this French guy, lumberjack French guy who built a dam, and then he'd blow it up, and then he'd build a bigger dam made out of steel or bricks. It's kind of like the Three Little Pigs, but it was funny as hell because he just kept going at it. It was like the Wile E. Coyote bit kind of thing, but with this guy named Black Jacques Shellac. It was pretty funny. You could probably find it on YouTube. It's pretty funny.
Oh, Sheline joining us here.
Oh, hello, Sheilian, one of our previous guests. I should
I
say.
saw younger guests. I'm not gonna get in
Younger
trouble. I
previous
have a
guest,
show with
sorry. I
her,
came up
Steven.
wrong. I
But
came up wrong.
Arcade Girls Gone Wild,
Arcade Girls Gone Wild. What?
right here. Says yeah. Arcade Girls Gone Wild.
Oh, okay. I just read the second line. Okay. This is a family show.
It is, and I want to give a shout out to her. Yesterday was her daughter's birthday, so I hope she had a great time. They went to Disney World. Is that the one in California? I don't even know. I'll probably get it wrong. But they went to Disney, and hopefully they had a good time
Where I
over
went,
there.
basically, or Disneyland in California.
Oh, that's Disneyland. Disney World's in Florida. See, I always get it wrong every time.
Disneyland's in California. Disney World is in Florida.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
what,
she's already
she went to
correcting
land
me.
in California.
She's already smacking me
But she
right
did
here.
say she was from California.
Yeah,
did
she
say
is,
when
right
we had
there,
her on the
land.
show.
And if you guys have
Disneyland.
not seen, I got to say this again. If you guys have not seen yesterday's Game Time, she did a hysterical bit, which I hope will be a long-running things. Glenn's consoles that she wants to like poop on, Glenn's crappy games, and she did the Jaguar, and it was hysterical. She's got some talent with putting these videos together, and makes it very, very funny. And Bill, Bill's from Bill's Retro Gaming Show did one the previous week with Dragon's Lair that was very funny. So the two new guests are outshining us old guys, Stephen.
We're just old, man.
We are.
We're just tired and old.
Pretty soon with the show will be on here live, it'll be like this.
Sleeping.
We'll take a nap.
Getting a nap for 45 minutes, an hour.
People take like virtual popcorn and start throwing it at the screen to see if they can get it in our mouths.
Yeah,
that'll be
it's going to happen one day. Hopefully that doesn't happen for a few more years, but yes, it's that. So hopefully do we have any guests for next week, Glenn? Do we have
I have
I
have a few people lined up. The issue is timing, so I won't know probably a little bit more at the middle of the week who will be on. But I'm planning. Yes, we are planning to have a guest on.
Okay, I was just asking to see if everybody. I kind of like this, just you and I every once in a while. I think it's pretty cool. So, and having a guest also. It's always a fun surprise to know about our guests and the community and everything else. So it's pretty cool.
So this weekend, we have a beautiful weekend coming up. What are you planning on doing this weekend? Watching indoor or something else?
I was supposed to go hunting with a buddy of mine.
You hunt?
Yes, just birds. I need to watch something bleed, so I just it's a stress reliever for me.
Do you eat what you kill?
Yes, I eat what I kill. Yes.
All right, and that's okay.
I don't kill to just leave it there. I don't.
No, okay, I'm okay with that then. That's
I'm a legit hunter. It's just partridge. It's chicken basically. So I'll go there.
Are they hard? I mean, they're hard to like track down.
You cook them like a chicken.
No. I meant you hunt them.
They're
So
the dumbest birds in the
you take
world.
dogs and dogs chase them out? How does that work?
You don't have to. They're stupid. You can literally.
Oh, great! So you're not really hunting. If you're shooting something stupid,
well, there is.
Are you really hunting?
Challenge. There's a bit of a challenge. They're just not. It's not like a crow. I'll give you an example, and I don't mean to offend anybody that doesn't like hunting, but a crow, if you just raise your gun, the crow's gone.
Well, it's illegal in the States to shoot a crow.
You're not even hunting it. You're just sort of lifting your gun, and the crow just knows.
Because he knows his rights in the States. You can't shoot a crow.
Oh, yeah, and it's gone. A partridge, you can walk almost right up to it and kick it. Not always.
That's like
it's
that's not hunting.
Bad.
It's not hunting.
It's not that bad. It's basically about 10.
So you're basically
30 feet away.
So basically, you are going after the rooster in Moana.
Yeah, sure. It's good eating. They don't say much in the oven, so
I think pheasant's probably a little bit harder, but there's no pheasant in Canada, is there?
They have pheasant farms, but they don't have much anymore. So, and that's all I hunt. I don't hunt moose.
Well, that's a sad thing you just said that, because I know up in Syracuse, New York, they have like deer hunting, but it's enclosed.
Oh, that's no fun.
No, so you hunt the deer. The deer can't get away.
In a barrel. That's like fish in a barrel.
Yeah, man. You can't get the deer. The deer can go so far, you can track him, but he can't get out.
Yeah. Well, basically, partridge, you don't walk up to it. It's not that bad. If you
just say you can walk up and kick it.
Well, I've seen people run over them with their four-wheelers. So, but it's a rare thing. They'll usually take off into a tree, and then you got to go chasing after them. There's a challenge. It's not like super hard. It's just it gets you out and whatever. But it's cool either way. So I was gonna do that, and in Endor also, where my wife and I are trying to finish up our watching Stargate Atlantis. We finished SG-1.
Isn't it like 20 seasons of these shows? That's why I never got into them.
SG-1 is 10 seasons.
That's a lot.
Is 5, and they overlap a little bit. So we're just finishing up season 4 of Atlantis.
I would recommend just watching the Stargate movie. It's only like an hour and a half, and you're done.
You have to watch that if you want to watch them in a chronological order where everything follows.
So the series does follow the original movie?
Yeah, not same actors, but the same story.
Right. At the same time, I think during when Stargate was out, there was Farscape, which I enjoyed. I was watching that, and there
took
was
some of those guys and put them on SG-1 towards.
I heard the girl,
Claudia
the woman.
Black,
right?
Which
she
is,
went in
the
there.
Girl, and Ben Brower, which is Colonel. I forget.
Right. There was
Colonel
at that
Cameron.
time. There was too many. There was so much sci-fi. You had to kind of pick your battles. What you're going to watch.
Yeah. And even then, too, when Stargate was airing, Battlestar Galactica, I think, was the first show or later or whatever.
It had to be the remake. at the time, and I
It
was
the
watching
remake.
that.
It was the remake. So they had an hour of Stargate, and then they had Battlestar Galactica, and then after that, Stargate Atlantis came out. So they had SG-1 Atlantis and Battlestar Galactica.
Yes,
I don't know
it's
which order exactly.
too much
but,
overload.
and it was great, but so I think we're out of time, my friend.
We are. So again, this was just kind of just banter back and forth, reminiscing with some Quantum Leap in the new show. And I do recommend
Checking
you
it
take a
out.
look and taking a look. It's on NBC. Check your local times when it's on. It was enjoyable.
Let's do this next week. The second episode will probably air on Monday. So let's ask the people if they watched both, and get their feedback on, hey, what do you guys think of Quantum Leap? Were we full of crap or what?
And real quick before we end, Apkus did ask if I finished Babylon 5 yet. I've seen it a ton of times. And Jen and I think Jen and I fell off at I think the third or fourth episode of season 4, and it's been months. Now we kind of said we'll get back. I'm ready to go back into it. She claims she wants to get back into it, but we have not gotten back into Babylon 5. We might have to start all over now. It's been so long. Jen, I think we have to go back to The Gathering and start all over again. We also just got a super chat from Hobby Hands. Steven, can you see that? Because, again, I'm not wearing my glasses and I can't read it too
Glenn,
well.
I'm finally starting my SW cab, Star
Wars
Wars
cab.
build this weekend, and using your yoke and that he purchased last year. I would love to send you pics when done.
Oh, absolutely.
Send them over.
We'll,
I'm sure he's
absolutely. And I'll put some maybe when it's done. We'll bring it on here and post it here as well. I hope you would be extremely happy with it. We take a lot of pride in the products, and I really hope you're very happy with that Star Wars yoke. So that's it. So, Stephen, I want to say it was a good show. It was a good recommendation.
You know what? I think we could do stuff like that, because it does tap into the old school of shows in the past where they're touching, and there's going to be more of that. I think down the road there's going to be other shows that they're going to want to mess with.
Wait, what kind of touching are we talking about here?
Hopefully it's the good kind, like they have done in Quantum Leap.
Not because I just watched. I had to watch all of my my mats at work and sexual harassment. You got to be careful with the touching. So you gotta, hands always up in the air.
Yeah. No touching of that sort, but we'll call it the respect that those shows deserve. How's that sound?
So good. Well, listen, everyone. We want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here on Friday nights for our little Steve and I mayhem that
rant.
we do. Yes. We'll try and watch Endor this weekend. Maybe we could talk about a little bit that next time. And that's all I have for today. I will say that if you can, we have a lot of good YouTubers, influencers in the chat. We have She-Line Gaming, Bill's Retro Gaming Show. We have the Rex are in here. A lot of good people in here. Do subscribe, check out the channels. They work really hard with their content, and they definitely deserve a watch and hopefully a thumbs up and a subscribe.
Yep.
But with that being said, enjoy your Friday. It's supposed to be a beautiful weekend here in New York, so if you're around the area, hopefully you can enjoy your weekend. But make sure, most of all, you talk to your family and friends and let them know how much you care and love them. You never know.
Give them a big fat hug and a big kiss.
That's it. And we want to thank you for watching. And remember, Stephen, what are we going to tell everyone?
Game on.
Game on, everyone. Have a great weekend and enjoy the rest of your night.
Take care.
All right.
at the Tiny Arcade fan page. Remember, don't admire people too much. They'll disappoint you.
Sit, Blue Blue, sit.